Load that up, eh?
Two game sevens in the books. One that might make Sharks fans happy. One that was so close to being an epic upset. We'll talk about that and night two of stealing fake Sharks jerseys right now on Teal Town After Dark. Good evening, everyone. It is Friday night, September 4th, 2020, day 23 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. A pair of game sevens in the books, and well, pretty good ending to both of them. Maybe not so much if you're a Sharks fan. Welcome to Teal Town After Dark. This is your live interactive post-game show. If you want to chat with us, join us with fellow hockey fans in the YouTube chat on the page or the app. Follow us on the social Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, SoundCloud, Reddit, and of course our favorite Discord. For more Sharks content, visit us at tealtownusa.com. I have a special guest. It is not AJ Strong as much as it says it is, but rather, are you ready, Mr. Ian Reed? What's happening, bud?
Not much. I think I'm gonna warn everybody here before we start because
Uh-oh. Did we just lose Ian?
pretty
Hmm. Ian, there you go. I got you back now.
yeah.
Alrighty.
Okay.
You were saying.
I was saying that that when I do the show, it's gonna be pretty objective. I'm gonna tell you to pretty much the way I see it, and I'm gonna see if I can center myself here. And so if you really hate Vegas and you don't want to hear someone talk positively about what they did, then this is gonna be a rough show for you. I can't figure out what I'm doing. Here we go.
You're
There
good.
we go.
You're good. You're good. Yeah. Anthony Sanchez, please take that Dallas jersey off. It's technically a Minnesota North Stars jersey, so it's kind of like it's it's Dallas, but it's not really. But yeah, it's. I mean, Ian always tells it like it is, but let's start with the first game, which the catch of having a bubble. Would you say, Ian, to have a game seven at 1 p.m. on a Friday afternoon is not ideal, but in some cases it makes sense. Dallas and Colorado.
I
Um,
think the other thing that hasn't gotten mentioned enough here is that is the reason they had to do the Vegas and back to back and they had to put the game on earlier is because
gotcha. Now we got you back. For some reason,
okay.
yeah, it's for
Am
some
I having
reason.
issues?
Yeah, for some reason it's AOLing on your end, not mine, which is
That's incredibly bizarre
because it's usually my fault that gets it done.
yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here. Give me a second here.
I'll start recapping while you double check on things. Things got started early on. Radulov gets a goal early on a power play. Pavs gets the assist on that one to make it 1-0 Dallas. Then Nemestikov with a nice deflection to tie it up at one. Not even like a minute 9 later, and Amanda texted me. He's like, "It's going to be one of those games, right?" And sure enough, it was going back and forth. But Burakovsky makes it 2-1 Avalanche. About midway through the first on a snapper. Uh, and then in Ian, I have you back. the guy's name is Kiviranta.
Kiviranta, yeah.
Okay, tell us about him. I guess he was inserted in the lineup. We'll talk about his post game comments afterwards, but he gets a hat trick in this one, working with Gurionov and Kleinberg on his first goal. Then ties it up with 3:30 left on a slapper from Hintz and Heiskanen, and then he kind of is like in the middle of a scrum, and then he just backs off a little bit, and then Sekera, who was behind the net of all places as a defenseman, go figure, finds Kiviranta wide open for a slapper, one-time shot, good night, drive home safely.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations where, it's a guy making the best use of, the opportunity you're given. This is a guy who normally wouldn't have been in the lineup, replacement for an injury, depth guy. That's definitely, pretty, a guy that they're pretty high on, as far as I can tell. Like, this is a guy that they're pretty high on, but, wasn't an everyday NHLer right now, but they expect him to be in the future. And, you come in, you make the use of what you're given, and and obviously he had a hell of a game, and there's just no way around it. It was a hell of a game. He did all the little things right, and I think that's all you can ask for from a guy when you insert someone in the lineup that doesn't have as much knowledge of the systems or whatnot, but he came in, he did a lot of the little things right, especially that game winner there. I mean, just finding the open ice, and how can you go wrong? I mean, the guy had an unreal game, and it's all you can ask for from a guy who again, came in as an injury replacement depth guy, but put an opportunity to succeed, and succeed he did.
Yeah, and looked very sharply. As I mentioned before, his post-game presser was like, I hope I get to play again in the bubble. And like, you scored a hat trick in Game 7. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even Justin Williams is giving you kudos for that one. I would think, but it's just insane to have that go on. My notes that I had here, of course, this is the first time Dallas goes to the Western Conference Finals since 2008. They advanced then by beating the Sharks in that tragic 4 overtime game that saw Brian Campbell in the box and Brendan Morrow score the game winner. Pavs is off to the Western Conference Final. Good for him. I mean, he will now have again another say against the Golden Knights in a playoff series.
Yeah, I'm glad that the counter is alive and well. Thanks, Ruben. I'm gonna go all self-conscious here, and that's just bad for me. But
no. Hey, it's we all have our things on this program, so
absolutely.
See, there I go. Now I'm saying,
and now you're doing it too. So I'm glad that I've infected the I'm glad I've infected the team there.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, right? Because obviously Pavelski, there was obviously a big catalyst for maybe not the reason that he'd want to be in the series last time, but the team rallied around him, and they were able to to do that just basically improbable comeback in that Game 7 last year, and now he's he's got the ability now to try and do it for positive reasons. I think Joe Pavelski's had a hell of a playoff, and I think that I'm kind of surprised because I know that I was very publicly against the Pavelski contract that Dallas gave him. Like, I'm glad San Jose didn't sign for that, and I still feel the same, because if you go back and the beautiful thing is, this is all recorded so you can go back and listen to what I actually said. And it's not this year. Like I thought this year would hurt for, not having Pavelski on the team, and sure enough it did. But that third year, man, I don't know. And we'll see what happens in that third year on that contract. But it's not something that I think the Sharks should have done, especially being as cash strapped as they were. And I think it does hurt them early. And I said it, it probably would. And he's had a hell of a playoff this year. But, that third year still scares the hell out of me.
Yeah. No, just like the one with Patrick Marleau,
Yeah.
and look how much that costed Toronto down the road. I mean, yeah, they ended up getting the pick essentially back, but and like Kevin says, 100% about Pavelski, it hurts, but the truth hurts sometimes, and yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't sure going into these playoffs. It's like, man, we're rooting for Pavelski, but
I don't have a problem. Like I don't, it's a business, right? And I completely respect the fact that it's a business. And I think that's keeps me sane sometimes, because I think like I don't really have anything against them for leaving, and I don't
no,
really
no, no.
have anything against the Sharks for not giving him that third year. Like I really think it's one of those things where it sucks, but it's a business, and the Sharks had to do what was right for the business sense. Now, obviously, things went way off the rails this year, more than I think anyone expected them to. Definitely, I didn't expect it to be this bad. But I think that in the long run, it's going to be the right move, and time will bear it out, and we'll see.
Yeah.
But time will be the teller here. But props to him, man. Like I don't like again, I'm not super cheering for him at this point, but I'm not like against him either. I'm not like, oh well, f that guy, he left. Like it's good to see him doing well, and I'm glad he's having a good playoff, and hopefully he can do something against this Vegas Golden Knights team, because man, they're going to be third tough out for anyone, I think.
Yeah, I mean, in full props to Colorado, who I thought was the best team that could take down Vegas going into this tournament, but they just got banged up. I mean, I'm sorry, when you were banking, and Michael Hutchinson had a hell of a performance. This these last few games to keep Colorado alive, but man, without all the defense, all the not just defensemen, but all the players that Colorado was missing, including no Landeskog.
Yeah, you know what though, I really didn't like how I didn't like how Colorado, like it seemed like every time they were up, they really took their foot off the gas, and I don't know if that's you know I don't know what it is. Like I don't know what you point at there. Like obviously, I think the injuries are definitely a factor, and I think that Colorado, I can understand if you're a Colorado fan, you're probably gutted right now that things ended the way they did. Um, as a as a neutral guy looking at it, like, yeah, it sucks, but I mean, they're not going. Colorado Avalanche aren't going anywhere. Like they're not like as far as like I shouldn't say they're not going anywhere, because I think they are going places. They're going to be a threat next year, the year after that. So I feel like if you're a Colorado fan, you're gutted, but I'm not super gutted for them because they're going to be back.
Yeah, I mean, they'll be back, and they have plenty of cap space. Partly, they're going to need to, empty out the Brinks truck for McKinnon down the road. But, Kevin's saying Colorado only scratched Landeskog so he wouldn't go offside again in Game 7. Yeah. Oh,
Right.
jeez.
Like, fair enough. But I'm not worried about Colorado. Like, yeah, it sucks, and yeah, obviously, and that's the playoffs, man. People get hurt. Like, I know I saw McKinnon's, post game where he said, he'd like a lot of things to be different, like the team to be healthier. But like,
Sure.
yeah, I mean, everyone wants their team to be healthy in the playoffs, but they're not going anywhere. They're gonna be back next year and the year after.
You almost have to expect some sort of injury, unfortunately, in the playoffs, or just at least
Right.
super banged up.
Yeah, I mean, but losing goaltending sucks.
And for both Grubauer and Francouz, I I
I didn't
joke
think
around.
Francouz had that. I didn't think he really had a great playoffs when they held on him. But I mean, I think if you're Colorado, I mean, you you might want to look around to see what's out there in goaltending land
And
this offseason.
there's gonna be plenty of goaltending out there in the free agent market, or even for trades as everybody starts preparing for the expansion draft. Kevin,
Mm-hmm.
weighing in, do you think there's anything between Ben and Sagan getting such little ice time late in the game in OT? I know they're not putting up points, but those are their main guys. You know,
I mean, I think you ride the hot hand, right? You do it with goaltending. I think you do it with your players
yeah.
too. I mean, yeah, they're the main guys, but I mean, those aren't the guys that are putting the points on the board, right? Like, I think, yeah, it's something that it's one of those things where it's like if it works out, you're a genius, and if it doesn't work out, you're an idiot, right? And again, we're going to talk about that in the next season too, in the next series too. Um, but like it worked out. So, I mean, I guess good coaching. And then if it doesn't work out, it's bad coaching, right? Like, I don't know. I think you got to put the guys, got to give guys the ice that are putting up the points. And I think that's what Dallas did.
Hmm.
I, you definitely want to get more from Ben and Sagan for sure. Like, I think if there's, especially next round there, it's going to be something that they're going to want. But, in this game, they put the guys on the ice and look at, I mean, you put the kid on the ice and the kid scores the goal in overtime.
Yeah.
It's hard to argue.
And with the hot hand, you go for it. I mean, it's a funny thing in this series. In all four Stars victories, they won with 5 goals. They won game one
Yeah.
5-3, game two 5-2, 5-4 in game four, and then 5-4 in game seven. So if Dallas can get to 5, which might be a challenge going up against Robin Leonard, that should be interesting to see how it goes. Uh, but yeah, I'll put this up. Serious question: if Pavs wins the cup this year, EK65's 2 seasons aren't good. Will this be pitchforks out for DW? Uh,
Pitchfork should already be
they
out.
should be out
Like,
already. Now.
I've had my pitchfork out all season. And I've been very on the record for it. I mean, do I think the pitchforks will come out? I think there's gonna be there's a portion of the fan base where the pitchforks are already out. And yeah, obviously if things go downhill next year again, I think pitchforks will come out. I think the pitchforks should already be there. There is there is an amount of like there's the problem with the cap, especially. I mean, obviously, no one knew COVID was going to happen and the
Right.
cap was going to be flat forever. But like, you kind of have to get judged on the situation you're in, not the, like, yeah, you couldn't have planned for it, but man, this team is in trouble if they can't have things break more right for them next season.
Yeah.
If they can't figure out their depth and they're gonna have to, because again, you're hard against the cap. The cap's not going up, you know. God, like, and okay, and again, yes, I appreciate that Doug Wilson couldn't have seen that coming, but even with incremental increase in the cap, they were in a tough situation against the cap. And regardless of how you feel about our Carlson, that cap is gonna hurt.
Hmm.
Like the pick, whatever, sunk cost. But man, the cap management, the guys that are up against the cap and the age that I mean, I've been talking about this all season. That's been my go. You have Martin Jones signed to a big ticket, and Martin Jones hasn't been good. And I know people are going to get mad that I'm taking another run at Martin Jones, but man, like,
He
we all
hasn't
watched
been
what happened.
great. I mean, you as we transition, you compare what Martin Jones did, and I'll use the prime example, the game in January against Washington, where it just fell apart at the end, to what Thatcher Demko did in 3 games.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, my
hard, man.
goodness.
I mean, like I said, the Sharks have a lot of contracts on guys that are on the wrong end of their careers till they're well into the wrong end of their careers. And I mean, like I said, I don't really want to. I know we're a Sharks podcast, but we've got other stuff to get to, and this is stuff I've been saying all year.
But you're right. That's the thing. That's the thing. It's in RBG saying, Jonesy hasn't been good, but the
Hmm.
defense in front of him hasn't been good either. It's a combination. Yeah, you're right. You know,
Yeah, the defense didn't help, but like again, like, and again, I'm gonna do the same thing I've done all season. Like, yes, I agree, the defense hasn't been fantastic, but the problem was like there's saves that like Martin Jones needs to make, and he didn't make them. And again, I'm gonna go back and say like if you look at what the Jets went through this year, what was the difference? Goaltending,
yeah,
because their defense was garbage too,
yeah. I
and
mean,
goaltending was the difference. And in San Jose, it was the difference for the wrong reasons.
Hellebuck didn't hella suck for them, and that was huge for Winnipeg. But you can only get on Hellebuck so much. So, uh,
He was, I mean, they were, he was, Connor Hellebuyck was their MVP.
yeah,
He was the difference, and the defense in front of him was pretty craptastic as well.
yeah, yeah. It was not pretty. But let's move onward to Vegas and Vancouver. Um,
Hmm.
I'll
I'm just gonna make everyone angry tonight.
that's all right. That's all right. A tweet from one of our favorites, Blake Price, and I say that as AJ. Do you make the call tonight to TSN 1040? Robin Leonard, 128 saves in 6 games. Thatcher Demko, 123 saves in 3 games. My goodness, Miami. I mean, Thatcher Demko. And it's weird, Ian, that you talk about the losing goaltender versus a guy who shut out the opponent for the third time in the series. But
Right?
but Demko put on a fantastic performance, and he only allowed 1 goal in this game. And if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, he only allowed what 3 goals in. Hang on, I
The
can pull
whole
it up.
the whole time he was in, pretty
Yeah,
much.
he allowed just 2 goals in the
Yeah.
3 games that he was in. I mean, that's unreal.
Right. I mean, look at Thatcher Demko had a hell of a game, and I think like you know, it's interesting because like you want to look, if you want to kind of fast forward and kind of go out of order here, and you want to fast forward to the offseason for Vancouver. I mean, they've got some decisions to make now. I like Thatcher Demko was always like he's always been touted as like he was gonna be the guy,
Right.
and he's gotten off to a bumpy start, which lots of goalies do. I mean, not everyone can be Carter Hart for God's sakes,
Right.
but like he was kind of like Thatcher Demko was kind of like Carter Hart's probably a good comparison because that was the kind of hype around Thatcher Demko as well.
And they really were pumping up Demko
For sure,
early on.
early on, and he had that pedigree. He has that pedigree, and I think, again, like not everyone jumps out of the gate and can jump into the NHL. In fact, most times it doesn't happen. Like there's usually some AHL growing pains, and then like me and Carey Price, same thing, had growing pains. It wasn't like he just jumped in and he was amazing, but Thatcher Demko's always been like he has that pedigree. But goalies are voodoo, right?
Crazy, they're
Um,
crazy people, Ian. They are crazy people.
yes.
Yeah. Ian,
Not according to NBC, it was
yeah,
some tryout they've never heard of. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people really like. I know I saw like a lot of like there's a tweet from like some Vegas fans and they're talking about how Thatcher Demko's this AHL goalie, and I thought that was really unfair.
oh,
Um,
yeah. It's like they were comparing him to freaking David Ayers. You know,
Well, I
I
mean,
mean,
look at, I mean,
of some guy they've never heard of. Which,
for
okay, I
sure.
get it, but
Well, I mean, Hutchinson, I mean, kind of had like a similar thing, right? I
yeah,
mean, like, Hutchinson, he's played in the NHL before, but he's by no means like, a guy you're going to sign to be a starter next year. Like it just, like they're two different, like Thatcher Demko has the pedigree to be a starter. In fact, I think Markstrom wasn't the plan until he was, right?
mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to be really interesting what they do now with Markstrom and Demko, because I don't know, can you, I mean, you can keep both because Demko's still got years on a cheap contract to burn. So you
Right.
can keep both. But I wonder if Vancouver dangles Demko out off the back of this thing and sticks with Markstrom. Like it's going to be really, really interesting to see what they do in the offseason with their goaltending, because Markstrom's definitely got hurt and he's definitely earned the right to be the guy there. So, and I think Vancouver, I think Jim Benning likes Markstrom a lot, but
Yep.
if he wants some just astronomical price that Vancouver can't, or just decides that it's just not palatable for them, I'm okay playing a little bit of hardball, knowing I have Demko in my back pocket
Yeah.
at this point.
And especially after this performance, if it was one game, okay, you may not have anything, but 3 games where you only allow 2 goals in those 3 games, and unfortunately you go 2-1 in the playoffs, and one of which is a Game 7 loss. But
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, that's a nice poker hand to have going
it
into
absolutely. If you're Jim
with
Benning and
Markstrom.
Markstrom wants the moon and wants, like, if Markstrom turns around and wants like a Bobrovsky type deal, you
Oh,
laugh and you say, "Well, I've got Demko. I don't, good luck." Because one, you're not going to get it right now with the cap being what it is.
yeah, and it's just crazy, it's
Like I
just
know a lot of like I know a lot of Sharks fans like would really like, because to take advantage of the New York Rangers situation where they have
3.
Shesterkin, so they want to get Georgiev out of there. But honestly, like if I'm Doug Wilson, I watch this Vancouver thing very closely
Big.
first and see how that I mean, it would look at, you're gonna have to give up something decent to get Demko out of Vancouver, if he's even on the table, which I'm not saying he's gonna be, but I would watch to see how that plays out first before I do anything
Right.
in New York.
Right. RBG saying DW better get on the phone with Benning right now, or a Zoom call or something, virtual dinner date, something, make an offer, do something. Trust me, I think, and the draft is set for October 9th and 10th. Is it me? And not to get ahead of ourselves, Ian, but is it
Mhm.
me, or is the draft just going to be a whirlwind of trades?
It could be.
And
I mean, we
especially
think
of
that every
rights.
year, right? We think that every year
Well,
though,
that's
and then
true.
it doesn't happen. It's going to be interesting. I want to see how this free agency thing plays out with Markstrom first, because I still think like Vancouver can. He might not be happy being the guy behind Markstrom, or having to dethrone Markstrom, but like I still see how that plays out, and then I go from there.
Yeah. But getting back to this game, I mean, we talk about the goaltending for Vancouver, but the Canucks offensively, yikes! I mean, I think Kevin mentioned it earlier. They only had 3 shots on goal halfway through this game.
I was wondering, like, I honestly, I joked and I almost tweeted it out before they ended up having like three shots in the second period. I was gonna be like, are they going on the shot a period plan and still somehow winning this game?
And if they did, that just make everything even more nightmarish. For
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, you don't have to like the result, but the better team won here.
Oh yeah,
Like the better team won. Like I don't know how Vancouver expected to just continuously just not get the shots they got were quality. Don't get me wrong.
hmm
Like I know, they're going to say about the stats about how many saves Leonard had to make, but like Leonard had to make some really damn good saves here to keep his team in it.
that one on Besser. What was in the
Yeah,
second period? that could have been the backbreaker there, but that was a phenomenal save, and some of the saves he did make, he had to work for,
Yeah.
and even the shot by Shea Theodore that essentially won it. By the way, thank you Anaheim for giving him up along with Clayton Stoner to Vegas on that one. Way to go. I mean, Theodore's had a phenomenal postseason, but that shot had so many people in the way, and it needed the pipe to go in.
Hmm. Yeah, like Leonard, and it's again like I said about how like if it works out, the coach is a genius. If it doesn't work out, he's an idiot. Like I I really, even though it's like it's one of those things where like if it went the other way, then everyone's be like, oh my God, why didn't you start Fleury? Oh my, like you completely blew this and whatever. But like I do have to give DeBoer credit for sticking by his guns and going with Leonard because he could have gone with Fleury. I'm not saying Fleury blows this game for them either,
Yeah.
but like he stuck by Leonard and got rewarded for it for sure.
You have to wonder if a little bit in PDB's mind he's like, Flurry didn't have a great game 7 last year. It's me. Maybe I should try. I mean, no, you should go with that.
Leonard and
But
I don't and I know it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be interesting and obviously if I'm Peter DeBoer, like I'm putting a hit out on Alan Walsh, like an absolute I'm putting a hit out on like
you're right.
no, but I mean really just for the because I think like I'm not saying like I like Marc-Andre Fleury. I think Marc-Andre Fleury is a good goalie. But he has had some catastrophic meltdowns
Oh
that
yeah,
costed. Like there's a reason why Matt Murray is
is the goaltender in
is the
Pittsburgh.
goaltender in Pittsburgh and not Marc-Andre Fleury. Not that Marc-Andre Fleury can't be a good, but I mean, there are there was a stretch of times where Marc-Andre Fleury just imploded and killed the Penguins
Mm-hmm.
during like Crosby's prime. That's a thing that happened. Like and
Absolutely.
don't get me wrong, like that year, the second year the Penguins won the cup, if Marc-Andre Fleury doesn't come in and stabilize things, like they probably don't make it to the finals to put them in a position to win that cup.
Mm-hmm.
But reality is there's a reason why Marc-Andre Fleury is a Vegas Golden Knight now and not
Matt Murray.
Matt Murray, right? Like that's a thing that happened. So I I would stick. I don't blame DeBoer for sticking with Leonard, who I think has had a great playoff.
Yeah. No. PDB is now the first head coach to go 5-0 in Game Sevens. Demko mentioned him again earlier, but he made 98 straight saves. His shutout streak was over 139 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And AJ mentioned it. I was surprised that Fleury didn't start Game 6. That makes it a little bit easier to go to Leonard for Game 7 if you do. But
But
now,
do you put that game? Do you put Game 6? That Vancouver one. Do you put that on Leonard? I don't.
no, absolutely not.
Like
Absolutely not.
Robin Leonard's been like, yeah, I know you have to win games, but like, in a situation like this, obviously, like there's going to be a lot of emphasis put on the goaltending because you have the ability to go back and forth, and other teams have done it too. But for me, like, I don't blame Peter DeBoer for sticking with Leonard at all.
No, no. And I think he is. Will he just ride him the rest of the way at this point unless something happens to Leonard? I mean, it seems like the guy had 3 shutouts in this series.
How do you go? How do you not like? I understand like because of the nature of the bubble and the fact that some of these games have to be scheduled a little bit tighter than they would probably like them to be. But like, aren't you like you're in the conference finals now? It's time to ride your guy. It's not like I don't think that you can go to your backup at this point. It's the conference finals. Like, are you going to your backup at this point? If you're a coach, I'm not. Like, it's the conference finals. It's
Yep.
the Stanley Cup final. Like if you make it that far, it's time to go with the guy that the guy that brought you to the dance, and that's your starter. And for like, there's a reason that the Golden Knights went out and got Leonard, because Marc-Andre Fleury didn't have a fantastic season. I think he's played, like, I think his age and the amount of hockey he's played in the last few years has definitely caught up to him a little bit. And I think that the break should have helped Marc-Andre Fleury. And I think, and look at, and the times that Marc-Andre Fleury has been in, he's been fine. Like, again, he's been fine, but Leonard's the guy that got you to the dance. Like, that's the guy you go with.
And you're right. It also doesn't help that some of the Canucks players did not do well in this round. Besser had a goal. AJ's mentioning Bo Horvat, who was like dynamite against St. Louis, but he had. I mean, well, he had 2 goals, or excuse me, 4 goals in here, but I mean, it's tough to see, but for Vancouver, it's a huge stepping stone for them. They had a heck of a run
Yeah.
uh, to get in, and were on the verge of hitting that 8th spot before the pause, but now definitely has, for Sharks fans, not great, but it definitely has them thinking on the rise with some playoff experience and showing that they can do this and they will grow.
I think that you got some of the performances you got out of, like, you got performances out of guys in this series for Vancouver. If you're Vancouver, again, I feel the same way about Vancouver as I do about the Avalanche, right? Maybe not as high as on them as the Avalanche, but like, you got performances from guys that are the future of this team. They're going to be the cornerstone of this team, and you got pretty damn great performances out of them. Pedersen, the defenseman that I can't remember his name because I'm drawing a blank. Quinn Hughes. Like, you've got performances again. Like, if you're Vancouver, yeah, I'm bummed out, and I don't like the way I don't like the way that they played this game, and they didn't get they look at Vegas pretty much 4-line, just rolled them. But if you're Vancouver, man, you got to be pretty excited about the future. You got a hell of a performance out of Thatcher Demko, who, could very well, at some point be the guy still, if they, even if they do keep Markstrom around for another couple of years or whatever. Depends on how long they keep Markstrom around, right? And that'll be the key factor there. But even if you don't, even if you go with Markstrom, who I thought still, again, Markstrom wasn't terrible until he got hurt. I thought he was okay. He was good. Like, he wasn't, maybe he didn't have the performance that Thatcher Demko did, but but the performance you got out of those guys, like, you should be excited. You have the foundation for something really exciting there going forward. I am not upset about that. You're in the same, like, you're on the rise. Like, it's not like this team is gonna just be, imploded at some point. Like, right. you got really exciting going forward.
I mean, they're going to have some cap issues coming up, when they have to eventually re-sign Pedersen and Besser and definitely Hughes down the road. But it'll start with Markstrom as an unrestricted free agent, and people hoping something for the Sharks, but at the same time, really can't do too much. Honestly, there's so much money in contracts held up right now, so it's tough to see Sharks wise. But Vegas, moving on really quickly though, Ian, how much does Ryan Reeves get from the Department of Player Safety on the hit on Mod?
Okay, here's the problem, right? Mott came back, he played, which means, like, it's probably a game, if anything.
Yeah.
Like, I think if Mott didn't come back, then maybe. it's more, but it's probably a game if that. Unfortunately, it's just that's the NHL's broken when it comes to this stuff. Like the call was right, and they went back and reviewed it, and they got the call right, but because Mott comes back and plays the game, and look they're gonna go home from the bubble now, so even if he does, if it's one of those situations where player comes back and then concussion symptoms set in later, and I hope that's not the case, but these things have happened before, and that makes me worried. But yeah, I think it's a game if that.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the apology that they suspended, or that they gave him a game misconduct. Vancouver, come on, just look at the film from last year.
Well, here's the problem, right? And that's the other thing too. Like again, like you can be angry at the result, but like they had all that power play time and had a shot to show for it.
Yeah,
Like like again, like you can be disappointed. You don't have to like it, but the result speaks for itself. I think the right team moved on.
yeah, and honestly, I mean, Vegas played a heck of a series. Vancouver made it interesting, but you can't go droves of the first 10 minutes of a period without getting a shot on goal, or 20 minutes without a shot on goal. It's just not going to happen. I mean, you can get lucky, but you're hoping for royal flushes back to back to back when
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
that.
I mean, the better team won. Like again, if you're Vancouver, I think like you were probably playing with house money a little bit here because you probably had no business going 7 with this team,
Yeah.
to be completely honest. But you know what? You played with house money. You made a good run of it, and the future's fantastic for you. Like the future's super bright.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's get to the brackets. And it's now essentially just one bracket. Now, as we hit the conference finals,
Oof.
West is set. Uh,
West is set.
Vegas versus Dallas. That will begin Sunday at 5 p.m. Vegas won the season series 2-1. Dallas's game, or Dallas's victory, came in the overtime variety, so Vegas got a point if you want to count that. The Eastern Conference Final is almost set. Flyers and Islanders will play Game 7 tomorrow at 4:30 on the Pacific time zone. Uh, the East Final, and that's the crazy thing. This is going to be really tough for the team that wins tomorrow's game, Ian. The winner of that game has to get on a flight, probably late tomorrow night, fly to
Yeah,
Edmonton for Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final.
yeah. It's gonna be wild. It's
Yeah,
gonna be
no
wild.
kidding.
It's gonna be raw. But I mean, that's the nature of the beast, right? They want to get this. They want to get these guys. They want to get this. They obviously, they want to get this done. They want to get these guys back to their families. I think there's, this the price to pay. They knew what they were getting into with this bubble. It's got to be awful. Like for the way that the NHL's done it, which I think they've done it right. But I mean, it's the toll that it's got to be taking on these guys. Like I don't envy them. Like I think it's great that I think a lot of people are like, oh well, what, they make a bajillion dollars, and they're gonna play for the cup and they're doing the game they love. But man, these guys have families and stuff, and I can't imagine how difficult this must be for guys. And
And
I
go ahead.
no, it's I can't imagine how difficult it's got to be for them. And I think the NHL wants to get this done quickly so that they can get these guys back to their families and stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's. I mean, there was originally it was talk that they would get the families into Edmonton for the whole thing, But now there's issues with that. So hopefully for the teams that are going to have the conference finals there, and Kevin, why are they moving the Eastern Final to Edmonton? Are the finals also being played in Edmonton?
Yes.
Yes, it's
Yes, they
just
are. When this whole thing went down, you have to remember, like when this whole thing was planned out, like Alberta had like nothing for cases. Like Toronto was like, compared to the States, like Canada's significantly done a better job. Like I'm just
Oh
it is
yeah,
what it is.
absolutely.
Like you know what, and I don't want to get like, I don't think this is political at all, but I don't want this to turn into some like nonsense thing. So I'm not going to go too deep on this. But when this was originally happening, Alberta had significantly less cases than the rest of the country.
Hmm.
They've kind of spiked a little bit over there now, but I still think it's probably your safer bet as far as the bubble goes. So yeah, the original plan was to get the finals. Obviously, they didn't want to have travel, so that once the conference finals and the finals are going to be in Edmonton, where originally the cases were significantly less, although they're spiking a little bit now.
Yeah, and it's to essentially be in a bubble. I mean, to travel back and
For
forth
right,
is
yeah,
just
they don't want to travel back and forth. That
yeah.
defeats the entire, like, even though the cases in Canada are significantly less than what they are in the U.S. Um, you still, if you start traveling back and forth, it kind of defeats the purpose of the bubble. So they wanted to move. Now that it's down to 4 teams, they want them in one place, new bubble, whatever. So
Yeah, and so that's where that's going to be. So again, game one for the Western Conference Finals Sunday at 5 p.m. Vegas and Dallas. Game seven, Islanders Flyers tomorrow at 4:30. That's after the Kentucky Derby, so that's on your local NBC station, or if you're up in Canada, CBC and Sportsnet. Uh,
correct.
East final will be on Monday. Most likely that'll be 5 p.m. Um, in Edmonton. So that'll be it for sure.
Yeah.
Your do you want to go with a prediction for Vegas Dallas?
Oh, I think I'm look at I have been the heel of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I picked Vegas to go all the way to the final and then lose in the final because that's what Peter DeBoer does. So I'm sticking with it. It's not the conference final that I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be the Avalanche for the first team in the West to kind of break my West bracket, but I think Vegas is the better team. I think Vegas should win this series, although you kind of get a little bit nervous after watching what happened with what happened with the Canucks,
Yeah.
because it's kind of indicative of what we saw with Vegas during the regular season. I was very high on this Vegas team in the regular season, and and they weren't the dominant force that I thought they would be during the regular season. So it makes me a little bit nervous um, sticking with Vegas, but you know what? I said they were going to be the team when it started, and I'm going to stick with them. Sticking by my guns.
I'm going with the upset for Dallas in 6 games. I just hoping. That's all.
And I
So
don't think it matters who wins on the other side. I think Tampa. I'm gonna ride with Tampa now. Tampa always screws me, so this is we're gonna be where Tampa falls apart. So congratulations to whoever wins the other side of the bracket, or the other side of the other side of the bracket there between the Flyers and Islanders.
yeah.
Whoever wins that series, congratulations, because I'm getting back on the Tampa train, which means it's gonna derail because this always happens to me with Tampa. Tampa always screws me.
Oh jeez. All right, so we'll look out for that one for sure. Uh, in other news, yesterday we saw some Chinese knockoffs that were trying to be portrayed as leaks to Sharks' 30th anniversary set, and then early this morning, Hockey Jerk mentions this to us. HC Sochi has practically ripped off the Sharks' jersey style. Definitely the stealth, and definitely the home jersey. The white away jersey is a skosh different with reversing the teal, and I guess that's more navy than anything else. But I mean, can you get a little more original, KHL? Come on now.
And this isn't new.
No, it's not new. I mean, there are a lot of jerseys that come out, but it's kind of, I mean, for this.
There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of like especially lower leagues and
Mhm.
that use that will take like your NHL template for layout, and then they just slap their own crap on it. It's nothing.
Yeah, especially in the AHL where that seems to be common practice lately, for sure. So, Kevin's saying, "Careful now. Remember that's Putin's team."
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. I like being alive and not poisoned and not dead. So great, fantastic, good job,
Boy, that changed
bravo.
quickly. All right, and before we go, we would be remiss because he's in the chat for sure. But Kevin, Lacey, our I guess you could say our Barracuda insider. We hope you had a wonderful birthday.
All around good dude.
Yeah, he's not too bad, and a great Gary Bettman impersonator for
Yes.
sure. With rocking that turtleneck, I don't care if it is going to be 115 outside. Monday, Kevin, I want you on the show, and you're going to be rocking that turtleneck with 115
Okay,
degrees
wait a
outside.
second. Patrick Ty was saying, honestly, Tampa isn't a choke. Have you watched the last few playoff series Tampa's been in? Did you not see what happened last year to them? Last year was just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, definitely. But they've proved themselves, and like I've said before, Ian, it's like the Sharks when they played the Kings in 2016. They're gonna get that revenge, and it's like kind of gave them that boost to keep going forward in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. Uh,
Yeah, all right. I'm just all right. Yeah, huh, we'll see what happens. We'll see. I mean, I think that I think Tampa's like I'm picking them to go all the way because Peter DeBoer gets there, he doesn't win. That's what happens. So now obviously that can change too,
that's what we hope will happen.
I'm back in Tampa all the way. So they better not screw me.
All right. In case you missed anything, you don't want to watch this again, check us out on tealtownusa.com or your favorite podcatcher, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and of course, always available at tealtownusa.com. So with that, we bring a close to this edition. Ian, as always, it is great to see you again. I'm probably going to try to kidnap you in between your work shifts for draft coverage.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. That'll happen.
Yeah,
That'll be a thing.
that'll be a thing, and of course, I'm sure we'll see each other again beforehand. But again, great to see you as always. But your final thoughts on where the people can find you?
Final thoughts. Looking forward to another Game 7 tomorrow. I mean, Game 7s are the best, and these two, for entirely, completely different games, but neither one disappointed in my opinion. I thought they were both, right up until the end there, man. I thought even though Vancouver wasn't offensively, having a great game, it's one of those things where it takes one stupid bounce and off they go, right? I'm hoping I'm looking forward to tomorrow's Game 7. I'm looking forward to the next series. I think that the next series, either way, they're both going to be great series. No lack of drama, and if we get a Tampa Vegas Stanley Cup final, that's going to be freaking fire. I can't wait. As a neutral observer who I don't really care. As anyone but Vegas, I guess, but I don't really care. So for me, with no real skin in the game, this has been fantastic. I can't wait for these next two series.
It's been a great playoff run. I mean, up until now, we didn't have a Game 7, and now we're getting 3 of them. And it's been fun these first two. One went into overtime. Another one was a great goaltending battle that went in the favor of Vegas, I guess. But it is what it is, and if it is Vegas and Tampa, I would love for out of nowhere to have Randy Hahn say this again. I mean, it'd just be nice if it was Barclay Goodrow, winning the cup for Tampa. I mean, at this point, we can screw the first round pick that we're getting from the Lightning. So why not at this point? But Hey, everyone, thank you so much for following us and appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Tell all your friends. Follow us on the social media. Check out all our other content. And until next time, keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real teal. And the conversation will continue on the Discord. Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah, I'll be there.